Malaysia and Saudi Arabia further reinforce bilateral relations. Joe Biden urges Trump to discard Project 2025. Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for choosing World Today with me, Renee Fong. Malaysia and Saudi Arabia further solidified their bilateral relations with the signing of two Memoranda of Understanding MOUs. The MOUs were inked by Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan at the Saudi Foreign Ministry's central office in Riyadh. The first MOU on the mutual short-stay visa exemption for holders of diplomatic, special and official passports was signed and exchanged between Muhammad and his Saudi counterpart, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. The MOU is a recognition by the Saudi Arabian government towards Malaysia, especially in facilitating travel arrangements and increasing the direct involvement of members of the administration and officials from both countries. The second MOU on the field of social development was signed and exchanged between Muhammad and Saudi Vice Minister of Human Resources and Social Development for Labour, Dr. Abdullah Nasir Abu Tainain. The MOU, among other things, strengthens cooperations between institutions and organizations in both countries in the area of social development. Malaysia is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner among ASEAN member states and seventh largest globally. United States President Joe Biden urged President-elect Donald Trump to discard Project 2025, the controversial Conservative plan to overhaul the government. The project advocates a sweeping elimination of environmental regulations and a crackdown on programs to boost diversity in the workplace, which the project argues are broadly illegal.
I believe the only way for a president to lead America was to lead all of America. And I believe the economy I'm leaving at the moment, and others could do better than I did. I'm not saying I was perfect. But it ends up at this moment the best economy, strongest economy in the world. And for all Americans, doing better. So we got a lot to do. And I'm leaving the presidency, but I'm not going away. Bad news for you all. Because I think we got to bring this country back together.
He added his administration had embraced an economic approach that sought to grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up to the advantage of the middle class. He acknowledged that American workers were still struggling with inflation and high housing prices. Biden highlighted the creation of 16 million jobs, the most in any single presidential term, the lowest average unemployment of any administration in 50 years, and the smallest racial wealth gap in 20 years. Prosecutors have suggested to a New York judge the possibility of sparing Donald Trump any prison time for his conviction on charges involving hush money paid to an adult actress in light of his presidential election victory, but opposed dismissing the case. In a court filing made public on Tuesday, prosecutors with Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office urged Justice Juan Merchan to deny the Republican businessman turned politician's request to throw out the case so it does not hang over him and impede his ability to govern once he takes office on 20th January, noting that many of Trump's concerns involve the possibility that he could be incarcerated. Prosecutors noted that there is no requirement that Merchan sentence him to prison. It said the judge could conclude that presidential immunity from prosecution would require a non-incarceration sentence. Merchan has not said when he will rule on Trump's bid for dismissal. He had last month delayed Trump's previously scheduled 26th November sentencing indefinitely to give him the chance to seek dismissal. The Pentagon said on Tuesday that the United States Missile Defense Agency MDA successfully intercepted an air-launched intermediate-range ballistic missile target during a test of Guam for the first time, a significant milestone in the island's defense capabilities. Guam, a U.S. territory in the Western Pacific, is a strategic military outpost that is located closer to China than to Hawaii. It plays a crucial role in maintaining U.S. presence in the region and deterring potential adversaries. The successful test underscores the Pentagon's commitment to bolstering Guam's defenses against evolving missile threats. During the test, dubbed Flight Experiment Mission 02, the Aegis Guam system, integrated with the new radar and vertical launching system, fired a Standard Missile 3 block IIA. The missile successfully intercepted an air-launched medium-range ballistic missile target off the coast of Andersen Air Force Base. The successful intercept is part of a broader initiative to develop the Guam Defense System GDS, which aims to provide an enhanced integrated air and missile defense system. Thousands of protesters gathered outside the parliament in Seoul yesterday, calling for the impeachment and arrest of President Yoon Suk-yeol, as well as the dissolution of his party after last week's attempt at martial law. Around 40,000 people attended for the rally. Protesters chanted slogans against Yoon and his party, dancing and waving light sticks, and marched toward the ruling People Power Party PPP's building. Yoon is now the subject of a criminal investigation facing insurrection charges. He has apologized for the failed attempt to impose martial law, but has not accepted growing calls for him to step down, even from some members of his own party. Yoon said on Saturday he was entrusting his legal and political fate in the hands of his ruling party. The party said that it was discussing Yoon's potential resignation as early as February and holding a snap election in April or May. North Korean state media KCNA on Wednesday reported for the first time on South Korea's ongoing political turmoil since South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law attempt. Last week's shocking martial law order triggered concerns about a power vacuum and plunged Asia's fourth largest economy and a key United States airline into a constitutional crisis, sending shockwaves through diplomatic and economic fronts. After a week-long silence, KCNA published an article on what it described as growing social unrest in the South due to the martial law crisis. The dispatch did not offer much commentary but largely carried South Korean and international media reports, focusing on a series of protests joined by more than 1 million people calling for Yoon's impeachment. The report described President Yoon as a puppet who had already faced a serious crisis of governance and impeachment. It also reported Yoon's act as unleashing the guns of the fascist dictatorship on the people. KCNA said the enactment of martial law by Yoon was reminiscent of the coup during the military dictatorship decades ago and has drawn strong condemnation from all walks of life, including the opposition party. Thailand received more than 32 million international tourists this year. Further details right after this. Thanks for staying with me. Renee Fong. Thailand welcomed 32.7 million international tourists between 1st January and 8th December this year, generating approximately 1.535 trillion baht in tourism revenue. Tourism and Sports Minister Sorawong Tiantong said a strong rebound in Malaysian tourists helped offset the decreases in other markets. He said that during the week of 2nd to 8th December, the country saw 699,129 international arrivals. Malaysian tourist arrivals surged by 24.58% to 79,386, driven by improved travel conditions following the recent floods in Hat Yai district and the three southern border provinces of Patani, Yala and Narathiwat. Sarah Wong said other key markets for the week included China, Russia, India and South Korea, albeit with slight declines. He also noted a slight uptick in long-haul markets, particularly from Scandinavia, such as Sweden, Norway and Finland. Looking ahead, the ministry anticipates an increase in international arrivals driven by the peak travel season for European tourists and increased airline seat capacity. Mohammed al-Bashir has been appointed as head of Syrian transitional government that will be in place until 1st of March, according to the state media. And on Sunday, opposition group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, seized the capital Damascus in a lightning offensive, toppling President Bashar al-Assad, who fled the country. Before being tapped for the role, al-Bashir had been head of the opposition's so-called Salvation Government in northwest Syria and previously held the role of its development minister. The Salvation Government, with its own ministries, departments, judicial and security authorities, was set up in the Idlib bastion in 2017. It was meant to assist people in the opposition-held area where people were cut off from government services. Syria's opposition leader Ahmad al-Shara has vowed to pursue former government officials responsible for torture and war crimes. This declaration comes a day after he initiated talks on the transfer of power following the ousting of President Bashar al-Assad. In a Telegram statement, Shara announced plans to offer rewards for information leading to the identification of these individuals and committed to bring back officials who have fled the country. On Monday, Shara engaged in talks with outgoing Prime Minister Mohammed al-Jalali to coordinate a smooth transfer of power that prioritizes the provision of essential services to the Syrian people. While some Syrians celebrated the regime's downfall and others searched for loved ones imprisoned in Assad's notorious jails, Israel continued its airstrikes targeting the former government's military capabilities, as reported by the Syrian Observatory of Human Rights. Still in Syria, Ankara is preparing to face a surge in the influx of Syrian refugees following the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's government. Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said Turkey has expanded its border crossing capacities to accommodate the surge in Syrian refugees seeking to return home. He added they also increased the daily capacity from 3,000 crossings to somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000. Turkey is home to nearly 3 million refugees who fled after the start of the civil war in 2011, with Ankara hoping the tectonic shift in neighboring Syria will allow many to return home. Turkey shares a 900-kilometer border with Syria with 5 operational crossings. On Monday, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan promised to reopen a 6th crossing at the western side of the border that's been shut down since 2013 to help ease the traffic. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met Serbian President Alexander Vučić in the eastern German town of Freiburg on Tuesday to discuss sustainable lithium mining, among other topics. Scholz said that the concept of sustainability applied both in Germany and Serbia. On the other hand, Vučić said the exchange of experiences between the countries was important.
Ono što je za nas važno, to je razmena iskustava, nemačka ekspertiza, nemačko znanje, pod dva saradnja našeg Rudarsko-geološkog fakulteta sa ovde akademijom u Freiburgu, dalje školovanje naših studenta, obuka da bi mogli da upravljaju ne samo, i ne govorim samo o litijumu, već o različitim rudnicima, jer Srbija je izuzetno bogata rudama, mineralima i retkim metalima.
Belgrade in summer reinstated mining group's Rio Tinto's license to develop what would be Europe's biggest lithium mine 2 years after the previous government halted the process following mass rallies by environmental groups. If implemented, the $2.4 billion Jadar lithium project could cover 90% of Europe's current lithium needs and make Rio Tinto one of the world's leading lithium producers. The global airlines industry is projected to strengthen its profitability in 2025 with a net profit of $36.6 billion amid ongoing cost and supply chain disruption. Total industry revenues are expected to be reaching $1 trillion, an increase of 4.4% from this year. The International Air Transport Association IATA Director General Willie Walsh said the improvement will be hard-earned as airlines take advantage of lower oil prices while keeping load factors above 83%. Airlines are also tightly controlling costs, investing in decarbonization and managing the return to normal growth levels following the pandemic recovery.
But on balance, we think the direction. So next year we'll see passenger growth right across the world. It's not going to be at the same pace everywhere. On average, we expect growth of 8%, but it will be significantly higher than that in the Asia-Pacific region, in Latin America, and it will lag that in places like Europe and North America.
IATA noted that Asia-Pacific is the largest market in terms of revenue passenger kilometers, RPKS, with China accounting for over 40% of the region's traffic. In 2024, RPKS grew by 18.6%, fueled in part by market stimulus from visa requirement relaxations for entry to several countries, including China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. Boeing has laid off 396 more workers in the United States in the second round of job cuts. And according to a notice filed with the state's Employment Security Department, that's in addition to the 2,199 layoff notices Boeing delivered to Washington workers last month, bringing the total number of job cuts in the state to nearly 2,600. The layoffs are part of sweeping job cuts at Boeing, which announced in October it planned to reduce its workforce by 10%, or roughly 17,000 people in the coming months. In the first wave of layoffs in November, Boeing laid off roughly 3,500 people around the country. Washington State, where Boeing has 66,000 workers, got the heaviest hit from the cuts that round. The layoffs expected to hit all sorts of jobs and experience levels have so far impacted nearly 4% of Boeing's professional aerospace union. The Society of Professional Engineering Employees in Aerospace said that the 2 rounds of job cuts had impacted 660 people. Announcing the layoffs in October, the company reset the workforce levels to align with their financial reality and to a more focused set of priorities. The suspect in the killing of United Health Chief Executive Officer Brian Thompson showed defiance as he arrived under heavy police escort for a court hearing on his extradition to New York. Luigi Mangione struggled briefly with police and shouted, "It's completely out of touch and an insult to the American people and their lived experience," as he was led from a police vehicle into the building. Investigators were trying to retrace Mangione's movements in Pennsylvania over the past few days, as well as whether the suspect was helped by an accomplice either before or after the brazen shooting outside a hotel in Manhattan on 4th December that left Thompson dead at 50. Mangione was spotted at a McDonald's on Monday by an employee who thought he looked like the gunman in surveillance images released by police. A gun, clothing and and fake identifications found in his possession all closely match those used by the shooter. An arrest warrant for Mangione filed on Tuesday in Manhattan Criminal Court listed 1 count of second-degree murder, 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of criminal possession of a forged instrument. The Rapid Support Forces on Tuesday fired heavy artillery fire at an army-controlled sector of Omdurman, a part of Khartoum state. Emergency lawyers said at least 20 people had been killed, including at least 14 who were riding on a bus that was hit. The state government controlled by the army said 65 people had been killed and that other casualties had been transferred to nearby Al-Nair Hospital. Bodies in body bags arrived at hospitals while the injured were inspected by Khartoum's governor Ahmed Osman Hamza.
هذا الاستهداف بدلا من أن يوجه إلى أبطالنا في الخطوط الأمامية هو يوجه لهؤلاء الأبرياء مواطنين مدنيين في حياتهم العادية سواء كان في وسائل مواصلات أو في أسواق. هذا استهداف للشعب، وبينما الحروب ينبغي أن تكون في ميادين القتال ومع قوات نظامية.
Right activists said at least 127 people, mostly civilians, were killed in Sudan on Monday and Tuesday by barrel bombs and shelling from the warring sides. The 20-month-old war between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF has been turning increasingly bloody as ceasefire efforts have stalled and crises elsewhere have dominated world attention. A wildfire fueled by powerful winds was raging yesterday just northwest of Los Angeles, prompting evacuations for some residents in Malibu as it posed a threat to homes, disrupted power supply and led to road closures in the coastal area. The Franklin fire expanded overnight from 5 acres, moving through the steep mountains and spreading south across the Pacific Coast Highway in the charming coastal town of around 10,000 residents. Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Marone informed the fire has destroyed a small number of homes but has not caused any injuries or deaths. He added the fire's cause remains unknown and the National Weather Service issued a red flag warning, signaling an increased risk of fire danger for the area as Santa Ana. Around 2,043 structures were under evacuation orders and 6,046 were under evacuation warnings. The warning remains in effect today, but the Weather Service expects the winds to be lighter. In sports, City adapting to normal performance after years of near perfection. We begin with updates on the UEFA Champions League. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola on Tuesday said the team has to adapt to exceptional times after almost a decade of near perfection. City take on the Italian side on the Champions League and sitting 17th in the table before this week's slate of games kicked off. Guardiola's struggling team have 3 games left to clinch a top 8 spot that would earn a last 16 place and avoid a playoff.
Always I take that situation like it was perfect. It's like always I felt like a privilege. So that isn't real. When you win 6 to 7 Premier Leagues or Champions League or 4 in a row, that is not normal. This is exceptional. I take it as exceptional. And I take it like how good we are or how good everything is happened. That is not about that. So we won that no team has done it. And many we have all the records in ever. That is exceptional. So always maybe it's exceptional as well as going to have. You have to find the balance and come back on track. And track is win one game and in another one and be competitive in many things and feel that it's not what I have to do to help the team to win games.
The English champions are mired in a run of poor performances with just one victory in their last 9 games across all competitions, the worst stretch of results in Guardiola's mostly glittering managerial career. City defender Ruben Dias struck a tone of optimism, however, saying he and his teammates relish the challenge. Arsenal must adapt to the situation of having a growing injury list, manager Mikel Arteta said, as his side prepared to face AS Monaco in the Champions League at home on Wednesday, with several key players set to miss out.
Reasons, but as well, we need to accept the reality and move forward.
Arsenal have concerns over the fitness of Gabriel, Ricardo and Calafiori and Alexander Zinchenko, while Ben White and Takehiro Tomiyasu are already sidelined. Jurgen Timber and Thomas Partey also missed full training on Tuesday.
It is what it is. At the end, we have to accept the challenge, and there's opportunities for other players as well to do that. In the ideal scenario, we have to be in charge of making those decisions because it's forcing us to make it for the wrong reasons, but as well, we need to accept the reality and move forward.
Arsenal are 7th in the Champions League standings, ahead on goal difference over their French opponents, who began their campaign with a win over Barcelona. The constantly growing number of matches has become a major burden for players who are also playing for their national teams, and it is adding to a larger number of injuries. Speaking ahead of their Champions League game against Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund coach Nuri Sahin said on Tuesday that his team are missing a string of players. Defender Niklas Süle is the latest player to join Dortmund's injury list and is set to miss several months after picking up an ankle injury against Bayern Munich on Saturday. Julian Brandt and Karim Adeyemi, 2 of Dortmund's most dynamic threats going forward, are also currently sidelined with injuries. Expanded Champions League and FIFA Club World Cup formats, alongside enlarged national team competitions, have created a greater number of games for top teams and players. The new look 32-team Club World Cup in the United States will run from June 15th to July 13th, 2025, cutting into the players' summer holidays in a year without a World Cup or a continental competition in Europe, Asia or South America. Only a few weeks after its end, the new league seasons get underway, which will then lead into the expanded 2026 World Cup, co-hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico. Now moving on to tennis, Aryna Sabalenka has been voted the WTA Player of the Year for the first time after the Belarusian won 2 Grand Slam titles and secured the year-end world #1 ranking. After successfully defending her Australian Open trophy in January, Sabalenka won the US Open crown in September for her 3rd Grand Slam title and leapfrogged Iga Swiatek to top the world rankings a month later. She also won tournaments in Cincinnati and Wuhan to end her 2024 campaign with 4 titles. Former world number 2 Paula Badosa, who ended her 2023 season early due to a back problem that cast doubt about her future in the game, was named Comeback Player of the Year. Following the conclusion of the 2024 season, the WTA will celebrate the standout performers of the year over the coming days as part of WTA Awards Week, which kicks off. That wraps up World Today this time around. In a top story, Malaysia and Saudi Arabia further reinforce bilateral relations. I'm Renee Fong, Malaysia Madani. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant afternoon.